It's another week of Parents Canada Talk Radio here on Saga 960, News Talk Saga 960. I am Jason Thompson, and co-host this week, Genevieve DeVries, somebody that I parent with.
Hi, hello. Jen. Good morning.
How's it going?
You know.
That's it? You know?
I'm excited about our topic today. I think it's a great topic.
We're going to talk about sportsmanship, but before we get there, this is a great chance since we parent together. This is you can call me out on air in front of thousands of people.
Not going to do it.
You're not doing this right, or you missed the pickup of the kids, or something along those lines.
I don't think you've missed a pickup in a while. At least 3
just
days.
Since that time that I got the call from the police. I'm just kidding. That never happened. All right.
But our daughter does spend an inordinate amount of time riding the bus after one or the other of us have not.
That has happened once or twice, but these are the things. This is the thing about parenting. This is why I forgive parents. Tell parents to forgive themselves.
We are those parents, right? Who are like
all those parents, aren't we?
Well, we are, and it's always a relief to hear from other people that they also maybe forgot vaccinations were a thing.
Or a form, or got the 9th form sent home. Katie
so
Dupuy,
many forms.
Katie Dupuy, who's the editor of Parents Canada magazine, will constantly tell me that she is on that stuff immediately, and I'm partly jealous of her, and at the same time I secretly hate her because I just be like, don't be that amazing parent that we hear about, that we construct in the magazine articles, because they're not supposed to exist.
I run a law office, and I feel like I do more paperwork for my children's school.
That's awesome. All right, we're talking about sportsmanship this week, which is a really, really great topic, and I kind of want to start at the broadest thing. Today, we're going to talk about really, what this is, some of the strategies that are being used. We're actually going to have 4-time Olympic gold medalist Caroline Ouellette on the show today to tell us a little bit about how she perceives sportsmanship. She's now the coach for the Concordia University hockey team, and so she's got some really, really great insights to share with us. And then we're going to go through, kind of some of the scenarios. I'm going to mention Brad Marchand today. I'm going to talk a little bit about, you look at role models and how do you expect our kids to be, great at sportsmanship when we're constantly trotting out these yahoos in front of them. That's a difficult
I should tell our listeners that you and I sat through an entire Bruins game and didn't even boo him openly.
I was booing him secretly the entire time. There you go.
We were good sportsmen.
There you go.
No, that didn't work.
All right, here's where I want to start. I want to start with a story, and the story is about an experience that I had in the sports where I actually saw really the ugliest side of sportsmanship. I got once secretly signed up to be a T-ball coach that I didn't agree to for 6 months.
Love this story.
Don't know who signed me up, but that neither here nor there. And so we went through the entire season. Now the interesting thing is the town in which we were doing this was literally the last town in all of Ontario that kept score for T-ball games. So this is 4 or 5 and 6-year-olds, right? Just trying to get the mechanics, trying to understand.
There were 6. Were they 6?
There were a couple.
Okay.
Trying to get that idea of teamwork down a little bit, the enjoyment of the sport, but they still kept score, which meant that the parents in the stands were keeping score. So, we knew our record. There was a playoffs. I cringe sometimes when I think about this, because the next season they abolished it all, and part of the reason may have been what happened next. We were in the semifinals, and we were, we had a great team, and our team had a great time. There were freezies and watermelons and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, and remember that sweet little boy?
Yeah.
That's a Stwike.
That's right. That's what he would always say.
What a sweetheart.
And so there was a lot of that. Now, on the other team that we were playing at the time, there were, a bunch of wonderful children, and then there was this one kid. You always know the one kid in the league, right? Who's, taller, faster, better than everybody else. And this kid was amazing. He was the team in some ways. But I watched him in some of the games that we had played, and his dad pushed him hard. Again, this is a 5-year-old kid, and just watching him kind of tear a strip off his kid and that sort of stuff really never sat well with me. And it really bubbled over in this game, because I'm watching the parents in the stands, and it's like Game 7 of the World Series. They are seething. They are angry. They are yelling at the other team and that's teenage umpire and that sort of stuff. It was really, really uncomfortable. And, as a result of that, I think we lost that game. We didn't go to the championship. And this poor kid and his dad, they're going at each other like in the parking lot. And to me, that is the opposite of what you want to see, particularly when you're trying to foster a love of the game. This is sportsmanship at its worst. And whether you're a parent who, has your kids in hockey or baseball, or as we've seen recently in some of the articles I saw in the Toronto Star, cricket is really on the rise in Canada as we've got a more diverse population. Or if you're not even in sports at all, I've seen this through dance and I've seen this through music competitions and things like that as well. The stuff that we're going to share with you today are really going to kind of get you there. So why don't we put the stakes in the ground? Why don't you tell us a little bit about, what your thoughts are on sportsmanship and what it means?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think, to me, I'll tell a quick story. I think it's sort of undisputed that of our blended family, undisputedly, the most athletic is the oldest son, Keegan, and he played rep soccer one year. And I remember he was on various different teams, and you know how it works. They move from A level to B level and whatnot. And I remember him being about 14 or 15 and having changed leagues, and that team just lost every single game. And I would sit on the sidelines with these parents who I thought maybe were going to have, I don't know, heart episodes or aneurysms or something. It was so upsetting to them. And I remember one person turning to me and asking why I didn't seem upset. And I said, I really think they learn as much when they lose than as compared to when they win.
And that's the question, right? Like, why are your kids in sports? If you truly believe you're the 0.0001% of kids who are going to make it to, the NHL or fewer to the NBA and to Major League Baseball, I can see maybe some of those, but you can see those kids stick out immediately, right? When they're young.
Absolutely.
But by and large, what are we there for? We're there to learn teamwork. We're there to learn respect, encouragement, empathy. Empathy is a big one. So
that's what's so interesting. If we're teaching emotional skills, why are we so focused on the number of goals, right?
Well, but that's part of I think that's the ugly secret, right? Is the ugly secret is we say, hey, we want our kids to have great sportsmanship. Did you win the game? Just get a goal, that sort of stuff. Like the stat line is so kind of important, particularly when we talk about this idea of empathy. I have one friend who is a coach, and last year he coached his daughter's team, and he immediately, the first thing he tucks in is perfect record season. So before we even get to the idea of, good sportsmanship, he gets to that idea of perfect record, which that's where that kind of difficulty becomes. If you're focused on the result, can you be focused on the behavioral approach? But I said to him, when your kids are on the ice, how do you kind of coach that good sportsmanship? He says, it starts with empathy, right? Like it starts with the ability to understand who your opponent is and what they're up against and what that looks like.
And I would think that building those emotional skills, I mean, certainly, of course, I'm not belittling the fact that you need the actual physical skills, but building the emotional skills helps you when you're down in a game. Right? It helps you when you're that team who's, behind or the underdog, and you're fighting through. You're exhibiting that grit that gets you over.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's a good lesson. I remember my best example that I ever saw of sportsmanship actually did happen in the professional world. It was LeBron James. The Cavs had beaten the Raptors in 6. I think this was 2015. Before we had the championship and raised Larry O'Brien Trophy. And what happened was the game was over. LeBron's standing on the court. The fans at what was the Air Canada Centre then are still cheering and chanting. And he gets asked the first question by CBS. And he goes, wait a second. Can you just listen to this for a second? He says, where does this happen? He salutes the fans. He salutes the team. It very much is to say, listen, this was a hard-fought victory. I'm amazed. I'm impressed. And I love seeing stuff like that because, again, truly, sports is a competitive environment. But at the end of the day, not everybody's going to compete in sports as they grow older. But you're hoping that they're going to take away some of those emotional skills that are going to be able to help them to succeed. Thoughts?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, there are some realities to this, and I want to talk about this in our third segment. But there's a couple of things that are really interesting to me. And the big one is, is chirping, right? Chirping is, like kind of being on the ice, being on the court, being on the field, and trying to take the ball away, the puck away or whatever, and leaning into your opponent and kind of saying something unsavory. And of course, you're going to see this more in kind of the teenage world. But it's interesting, right? Because we can say be good sports, but we lionize chirping. Like I just watched an episode from the new season of Letterkenny. And there's like a whole episode, and it's hilarious because they're chirping each other back and forth and that sort of stuff. But the thing is we forgive that, and the fact that what's happening on the ice or on the court, as a coach, you can't always hear all of those sorts of things. And the kids are using it. So you hear one player do it, so you're going to do it. You're taking modeling in a really weird way. And, to me, it's like, how do you get that out of sport? Should you get that out of sport? When you look at somebody like Brad Marchand, who is expert at kind of getting people riled up. Should that person be a role model? These are questions I don't have answers for.
Well, I mean, again, I come from a profession that is really almost obsessed at this point with promoting civility, and even as adults, the idea is to, quote unquote, throw them off their game. Right. And that kind of, emotional belittling or name calling or whatever it is. And it's often homophobic. It's often racist. These types of things. There is that idea that it throws them off their game, and that's unfortunate, and I don't think at all what we're trying to promote.
No, but I want to hold on to that because you just raised a really interesting thing. That we're going to go to break, and we're going to come back with Caroline Ouellette, and after that, I want to come right back to this whole idea of that it's a way to throw them off their game, and it's something you do professionally or has done to you. I'm sorry, but let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you kind of be that candle amongst the wind going on. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your story. So join us at Parents Canada. That's on all the good social media networks. In the meantime, we're going to be right back with Parents Canada Radio on News Talk Saga 960. Welcome back to Parents Canada Talk Radio. I'm Jason Thompson, and I am here with my co-host, Genevieve DeVries.
Good morning.
And I got to tell you, I am super excited. We are talking about sportsmanship this morning, and we have hockey royalty on the line. How
Absolutely.
often does that happen, right?
It's amazing.
If you know anything about hockey, you know the story of Caroline Ouellette. She is a 4-time Olympic gold medalist, about to be inducted into the Canadian Olympic Hall of Fame. That's an incredible story in of its own right, but there's more. World Championship hardware, golds and silvers all over the place, a Clarkson Cup. And she's a mom. She has a little one who's turning 2 very, very soon. And, of course, she's been an ambassador for sportsmanship through the Chevrolet Good Deeds Cup over the last couple of years. Caroline, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jason.
Did I get everything? Did I get the... I mean, your Wikipedia page is so long. Did we get everything right?
Yes.
We want to make sure you get the proper accolades.
That's right.
Thank you.
Right. All right. Well, you spent your entire career playing hockey at really, really elite levels. What does it mean to you when you hear the word sportsmanship?
For me, it's about just doing more than wanting to win. It's about being a good teammate, being engaged in your community, being a leader, inspiring others with your actions, with your leadership, with your words, finding on your team who's struggling and having a chat with them, taking the time to be there for others, and always in sport, finding ways to win in honest ways.
Can you unpack that a little bit for us? Finding ways to win in honest ways. That's a really interesting term. What does that mean?
Well, for elite athletes, I think it first means to compete clean. And I think that in Canada, we have great programs that really educate athletes about what they can and cannot take. And that's really inspiring to be part of that team. And in other parts, I think it's about respect. It's about respecting yourself, your teammates, your opponents, the referee, your coaches. Yes, you're not always going to agree with a decision made by your coach, by the referee, but you have to be able to respect it. You have to know that they are the ones making the decisions. And those decisions, I know as a coach, we always make them for what we believe is best for the team. So for young athletes, and I know for myself at some point, it wasn't always easy to understand, but now that I'm on the other side, I kind of have a better sense of the bigger picture. So that's why one of my motivation has always been to involve my athletes as coaches so they see both sides of the sport right away.
That's really good feedback for coaches. And of course, I failed to mention you are a coach at Concordia University, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And I'm also involved with the national team program, which is a great honor and a great privilege to get to work with the best coaches in Canada and also the best athletes, many of which I played with in my career.
Oh, that's so interesting. I'm wondering if you can tell our listeners a little bit about maybe some practical ways that you do that. I mean, it's very interesting to hear sort of on a theoretical level, but I'm curious, what types of things, like what would that look like when you're trying to inspire your team?
Well, first of all, I know at the college level, we empower our athletes to come up with initiatives that they will do throughout the season to have an impact in the community. So finding ways to volunteer. And it's the best when it's driven by the players because they take a hold of it. They want to make it great. They want to take 100% part of it. And then what's amazing for us is to see how rewarding it actually is for them. They realize that, hey, it doesn't matter how old I am, I can have an impact. I can be a difference maker. I can bring positive around me. And, that's why I also so love the Chevrolet Good Deeds Cup program because that's really what it's about. We're asking Pee Wee hockey players, which are 11, 12 years old, to be active members of their community. And yes, we use hockey as a tool. It's the beginning of the season, so it's a great team building activity. But I've been part of many good deeds over the last 4 years that I've been an ambassador. We've seen over 1,000 good deeds perform in Canadian communities, 300 last year alone. And I've been part of initiative where we volunteered at a local food bank, a retirement home, raising funds for someone fighting an illness or someone in need. And to see those young kids realizing, okay, I can do this and I can find my voice through it because often at the beginning they're really shy, they're unsure. And then as they do it more and more, they really gain confidence and learn to work together to achieve their mission, which is really, really about inspiring good.
I love that. And
Amazing.
You mentioned a couple of examples. Did you ever have a moment when you're working with the kids with the Chevrolet Good Deeds and like you just get goosebumps? Like, was there a favorite story that you've got?
Well, I think the Husky from the PA 2 years ago that won the Good Deeds Cup, they pretty much saved Oscar's Place, which is a home for the homeless. They saved it from closing. And
Wow.
what was incredible is they started volunteering there, and it wasn't just a one-time thing. They went back over and over and over again all throughout the season. And their act of kindness really inspired donations from all across Canada. And we were able to save the homeless center from closing its door forever, which was, speaking of ways you can have an impact, that's absolutely incredible. Last year, the West Carlton Warriors, they embarked on a disaster relief effort after a devastating tornado tore through their hometown. So that was really a difficult time for many of them, many of their families, and they found a way to bring back smiles into parents and their kids by collecting gifts, by helping to clean, and it's been really incredible to see them also receiving the cup, which is the size of the Stanley Cup, and having their names engraved on it. It's something truly special.
I've seen them in the commercials in Hockey Night in Canada. You always feel good, and you know what you do? You feel like a good Canadian when you see something like that. So that's a good thing. I want to flip the script a little bit. I want to take us back to the ice because, I've stood in enough cold arenas to see coaches who are not fostering good sportsmanship. In fact, maybe going the other way, being a little bit too competitive. Same thing with parents in the stands and same things with kids on the bench. Can you talk to us a little bit about, what kind of creates that culture and why coaches and families and parents are getting so worked up?
I think we have to all remember why we are doing what we are doing when we are coaching, when we are involved as a manager. We're doing this for the kids, and they need to have a positive experience. And for me, I have my own hockey schools with Marie-Philippe Poulain, and especially at the players that are under 14, they need to have fun. It needs to be practices that are aimed at them working hard, yes, but through drills where they will enjoy it. And that's how we find that kids stay in the game forever. And when you have a negative experience or you lose that fun aspect, that's when kids quit sports. So it's so important for parents, for coaches to be the leaders here, to be the adults and make sure, okay, yeah, we're not always going to win, and it's fine to lose, and it's fine sometimes to get destroyed by another team. We all experience that. That's going to happen. But if the coaches and the parents get worked out about it, then it trickles down to the athletes, and they feel the weight of, oh no, we just lost 10-0 and it was our fault, instead of, okay, it's going to happen. We played a great team. There's nothing we could have done better. We played our best. We're going to keep getting better. And next time we'll make it a closer game. So, I remember my first season in hockey, I think we won 2 games. And to be honest, I don't remember any of the loss because I had fun. The coaches were great. They were positive. We knew we couldn't compete against most teams, but we won our 2 games late in the season, and that lifted us up like we had won the Stanley Cup. So it's about
awesome.
Really,
That's a
it's
wonderful
about really
story.
having goals as a team with what you have to work with, and you're not always gonna have winning seasons, and that's completely fine. And I think that's how we develop complete people that are willing and able to take loss, to take adversity, to fall down and get back up.
And that's actually really interesting, the whole idea of focusing on that behavioral side. You've kind of laced all of your answers with things like, confidence and teamwork, and, that idea of grit about falling down and getting back up. Any other suggestions you can give to parents on how they can, really, like on the car ride to the arena or on the way home, how they can kind of create a sense of good sportsmanship in their kids as they start to play?
You know what? I really personally think it comes down to 2 questions parents should ask their kids after a game. 1, did you have fun? And 2, what did you learn today? And if you can do that and really listen, really, really listen, then you'll have your children just talk over and over again about what they loved about the game, who they had fun with, a certain play that they remember. And it's to me, that's what it's about. It's about them sharing the joy that they feel playing a game that they love, and that's what it should always stay about.
Well, I've seen you on the ice, and you always look like you're having an extraordinary time. Do you have your little one on skates yet? It's a little early, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, she actually skated twice on one of those 2 blades skates, and it was really funny. She was loving it. She was falling, wanting to get back up, and basically walking on the ice. But so far, she loves the Zamboni. That's her favorite part, and she just started saying hockey. So it's
A
it's
proud
so
mom
cute.
moment, right?
Yes, exactly.
Caroline, we know you have to get going, so we're going to wrap you up here. Thank you so much for being on the show today. We've been talking with Caroline Ouellette, who has shared with us a whole lot about sportsmanship and some of her experience with the Chevrolet Good Deeds Cup. And good luck with your induction, I think, coming up in a couple of weeks.
Actually, it just happened
It
with
just
our
happened.
Vancouver. Yes,
Oh,
yes, it just
congratulations.
Can I,
Congratulations.
before we end, can I just invite all of Canada to visit ChevroletGoodDeedsCup.ca, because right now coaches can sign up for a team kit. And what's important to know is that Pee Wee teams have from November 2nd to January 13th to submit a video entry of their good deeds for a chance to win the grand prize of $100,000 for the charity of their choice.
That's the perfect way to end. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Jason and Genevieve.
Have
Take
a wonderful
care.
day.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. We have to go to break. You are listening to Parents Canada Talk Radio on News Talk, Saga 960.
Welcome back to Parents Canada Talk Radio. I'm here with Jason Thompson.
And we're on News Talk, Saga 960.
We are.
So,
That was a great segment. She's such an interesting woman, so accomplished. And I have to say, I mean, I think we'd seen, like you and I, having a son who was at Sick Kids, we've seen players in the community, but it just is a new level to me, thinking of that being a team building skill when they're out in the community before, when they're doing those types of good deeds that she was talking about.
Right.
That's...
But even just on the ice, like you listen to Mike Babcock, who's the coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the way he talks about the team, like you gotta play right. And what that is, what he's really trying to do is infuse that sense of behaviors, right? About grit, about drive, about, kind of answering the bell from the first thing. Like, I listen to professionals, and that's really something I find amazing. Let's talk about, as parents, what can you do to really enable that sense of good sportsmanship. And I want to kind of dial us back to the first segment. At the very end, you mentioned, you tucked something in there that I wanted to come back to, which is you're a lawyer. So you're actually in a very competitive environment where the elbows get up. And there are people, and you've told me stories about some of the things that people have said to you in the past, and you just scratch your head. So you like to take a different approach, right? You'd like to take the good sportsmanship approach of lawyering. How do you do that? How do you kind of put that medal on you so that you can not take the other stuff personally and not shove back in the same way?
Well, it's so interesting because there's so many different dynamics that happen with other lawyers, and it really depends on, are the other lawyers sort of similar experience level to you, or are they sort of coming from a place of authority where they want to engage in these types of tactics that we all know is not helpful to our clients, as a way to sort of intimidate, right? And I wonder if that's kind of what happens in sport.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, a shout out to my friend Heather. I won't mention her last name on the air, but we have a funny story in that we argued a motion together, and arguably, I suppose I won, but she sort of in the lawyer's lounge afterwards, a hug turned into a headlock. And it's a story that I tell other lawyers, and she always says, "Don't tell it that way. You'll make me seem like I put you in a headlock." But I mean, we have to at a certain point step back and say, there's one arena, and in this case, it's the game. You're playing the game, but then stepping back from that and wondering why are we playing the game? Are we playing the game to win the game, or are we playing the game to develop skills? And if we're developing skills, are they just physical, or are they also emotional?
I think that's the line right there. Because as a lawyer, you're playing to win the game. As a professional athlete, you're playing to win the game. And as a parent, and this is where it gets a little gray, if you're a parent who thinks that your kid is destined for something and that they're trying to develop not only the emotional skills, but if they're in the minor, they're actually trying to develop the basic skills, then you're going to push them hard. I mentioned this on one of the previous shows. I saw Mitch Marner's dad in a documentary from when he was 9, right? And he's pushing the kid, but he also knows that the kid has that opportunity to make the NHL. It's a tough thing. So to most parents.
But honestly, we all want to believe that our kid is that kid. We do, and no matter what they try, right? We all want to believe that.
Really?
Yeah, okay. Don't we? I think so. You've given up hope, Jason.
It's not that I've given up hope. It's just I'm realistic about it. So, but let's give some parents some things that they can do to foster that idea of good sportsmanship.
I think being polite. I mean, to me, that's 100%. Just so important. And also,
it's not just the kid be polite. You as a parent. So be a good role model.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were talking about parents. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the parents need to be good role models. They need to be being, polite. I'll never forget, again, speaking of my oldest son who played a lot of competitive sports. I remember a soccer game where he got hit so hard in his face with that ball. It was like you could hear it 20 feet away, and he jumped back up and kept going. And a few other people, not knowing I was his mother, said, "I want my kid to be that kid. I want my kid to be the kid who jumps back up and keeps going," right? Because that's what we all want, right? Sure. But interesting, I guess, more the point I'm making is those weren't those weren't parents from our team that were right. Complimenting him. And that's what you have to do. You have to recognize skill and recognize good sportsmanship on either side. So you're fostering a good environment, I think, for both sides of the team. Never mind who's going to win or lose, because those are the kinds of things, that you forget. It's similar to that Maya Angelou quote that says, people will forget what you said and they'll forget what you did, but they're never going to forget how you treated them.
I think that's a good one. And I think that's a valuable thing when you think about this next thing, which is, as a parent, I see this way too often in everything, which is parents who chirp behind kids' back. They got more ice time. They shouldn't be in the position that they're going to be in. Again, we have kids who are in dance and music. That kid was off key. If your kids overhear that, then they're going to absorb that. We talk a lot on this show about the importance of modeling, and your ability. And again, our kids are in a studio where they're a market difference. There's a big competition that they have in the spring of every year. A couple of years ago, there was a moment, and it felt like a very kind of friction-filled moment. And I heard parents kind of chirping kids behind their backs. And then this year, it seemed different, right? I watched. My daughter came off stage. She hadn't had a great performance, and yet she was surrounded by all of the other parents and all of the other kids who kind of supported her and created that confidence, so that when she got on for her next performance, it was markedly better. And that idea of, hey, listen, we don't have to compete with each other. We can lift each other in some extraordinary ways. I found that to be a really, really amazing, amazing thing.
Absolutely.
Here's a couple other things you can do as parents. Can we be realistic here? Like we tend to cover this stuff in the abstract, right? The whole idea of, hey, isn't sportsmanship great? Wouldn't it be nice? And then you get into the arena and you're holding your Tim Hortons. It's 5:30 in the morning. You're like, why did my kid miss that shift, right? Realistically, you have to understand that not everybody's going to be a good sport. Just because you're a good coach or like you're a good lawyer doesn't mean the other side's that's not going to do that. I always laugh whenever I see, like, at the end of, the handshake at the end of a series and that sort of stuff. After these people have kind of run at each other with everything they've got and said just the most awful things, that idea, that I don't know if it washes with me or not. So that idea of, be realistic about what's going to happen out there. Your kids, you tell them there are going to be people on that ice surface who are going to say things to you that you're not going to like. The best way that you can get past that is to get away from the kid. That's the one that we've heard an awful lot about, is kind of pull yourself out of the situation, skate away, at the whistle or whatever.
But remember, it's not just about hockey, right? So it's walking away if you're on the
walking away. But the idea that get out of the situation, because what happens is the more you get it heaped on you, the more that you're going to blow up. You're going to shove back and that sort of stuff. So realistically, that's one way. It's really kind of the same advice you give for bullying, and I don't want to say that bad sportsmanship is bullying. We bandy that word around.
It can be, but it isn't necessarily.
It isn't. And
it's sometimes a lot more simple, right? It's just, not treating your own team members with respect. Like, right. It's
But the skills that they do say for when they are bullying is really helpful, which is, go back and share. Tell your coach, tell your teammates and that sort of stuff. Don't kind of just internalize it, or tell your kids not to internalize it and kind of take it away. And definitely, tell your parents. And as a parent, your goal is not to blow up and make everything be upset and out of control afterwards. I can't believe they said that on the ice. I can't believe they said that on the court and that sort of stuff. It's really it's a teaching moment. Like, it's an opportunity to say to your kid, look, there are people out there that are going to be like this no matter what you say to them. And so you have to build the skills to deal with those people. And again, now we're getting into hard psychology here, not to enable the behavior, because you should call it out. If someone chirps you on the ice like that and if they've crossed the line, you should have the ability to say, you can't say that to me, right? And then skate away and make sure that you're able to tell the kids to tell somebody and that sort of stuff, so that you can breed this out of the game. But the thing is, you got to be realistic about this stuff. Is we can say, hey, wouldn't it be great if we all showed up and we all hugged each other when we got on the ice, and then we played hard and then we left and we shook hands. That doesn't always happen. I mean, I've seen ringette tournaments where it's pretty intense stuff. So, What's another thing that we can do?
Let's see.
We can remember why we're doing this in the first place. This is an important thing, is remember the purpose that you're taking your kids to sports. You may think that your kids are your RRSP, that you're investing in them at 5 a.m. so that they can become an NHL pro and kind of coast you through the 65 and golden years and things like that. But truly, that idea of remembering why your kids are there, which is number one, and we heard Caroline talk about it, have fun, right? Okay, so after you have fun, and then looking for behaviors. What is it you're trying to grow there? The idea of teamwork, the idea of confidence, the idea of performance. Again, not having sports kids, but watching kids kind of grow with their confidence when they take piano lessons onto a stage in front of everybody else. And once they've actually gotten through it, they've been super nervous beforehand, and then afterwards they're really excited and ready to go. I mean, that's all really, really amazing stuff. What about, and we've all had this moment, talk about being real, where you blow up. You do. You're like, I can't believe that ref made that call, or I can't believe that happened, or I can't believe we got bumped down the schedule. Is all lost? All hope lost then?
I don't think so. I think I truly believe that our kids learn as much when we screw up and we say, whew, I screwed up. You're looking at me
I
across
know.
the table.
This is a long-standing conversation between the two of us.
But I do believe, sometimes it's worth saying to your kids, "Oh boy, wow, my emotions got the better of me," and that gives you the opportunity to model to them what it looks like as a grown-up or as a kid when you go too far, and when you do something that you wouldn't be proud of.
Yeah, hey, listen,
and you have to own it
and walk
and
back.
and to the point that you always make it better. Find something to do that makes it better, whether it's apologizing to the coach, apologizing to another parent, whatever it is that you can feel that you've shown your child that you recognize.
And this is a skill from everyday life. Like, this has happened from time occasionally between you and I. There's some friction, and we might get into a little heated discussion, and the kids might overhear. And so then I learned this skill, which is afterwards, it's really helpful to either apologize in front of the kids or address it with the kids. Because when you do that, then they see, hey, listen, it's okay to get frustrated sometimes, and stuff's going to happen, but you can't just leave it out there. You can't just develop your own behavioral skill set around that, because it's going to be a problem.
Absolutely. I think otherwise we are creating brittle children who don't have that skill where they can recognize that, that adults make mistakes, that coaches make mistakes, and that it's okay to make mistakes so long as you address them.
Yeah, you're
right?
a human being.
You're a human being, and you're not going to fall to pieces when something goes wrong. There's ways in life that we pick back up and we keep
We want to
going.
hear from you about that. Tell us your stories.
Absolutely. We'd love to hear from you.
Hit us on Parents Canada. So we're on all the good stuff, the Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Tell us your experience with, maybe something that happened and how you were able to resolve the situation. I think that's the really big thing, because you're giving advice to other parents. We're going to wrap up in just a couple minutes. So in the meantime, you are listening to Parents Canada Talk Radio on News Talk Saga 960.
Welcome back to Parents Canada. Well, that was a great show. Jason, this is going to be my opportunity to ask you, what did you learn today?
I learned I don't want to put my kids in any sort of extracurricular activity.
It's a bunker. We're building a bunker in the backyard.
Here's what I learned. I want Caroline Ouellette to be my kids' coach for everything, because she gets it. And what I mean by she gets it is she understands, and I think this is a big part for me, is purpose, right? Why are the kids in these things? Why do we have a daughter who's in yoga? Why do we have a daughter who's in piano? Why do we have a son who's, kind of taking acting lessons? Number one is, it's because, and we heard this in a previous show, is it allows us to see them, right? School is going to be school. They're going to have to take the curriculum all the time. It's that after-school activities that allows them to truly find how they're going to express themselves and see the world. That's number one. And then building on that is you use that as the conduit through which you're going to build those lifelong skills, those skills of, whether it's, if you think is important for your kids, whether it's grit or self-actualization or confidence or teamwork. I do a bunch of work with Doug Gilmour, the former captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And, he tells me all these great stories about when he was a kid. Like he really does look up to his parents and the way that they built the strong work ethic. And he tells this amazing story about how one day he shows up. He's had a great game. He's had a couple of goals. It's been an amazing night for him and that sort of stuff. He's feeling great. They're driving home. He doesn't notice his dad's not talking to him, right? And he gets out of the car and he goes out to the back to get his bag, right? And with all of his hockey equipment, his dad's like, leave your bag in the car, which I'm sure you're looking at me like, what does that mean? What that means is your equipment doesn't get to dry out, right? Because you've left it in the car. You have to actually take it out and dry it out and things like that. And because of that, that's a bit of a humiliation, or that's a bit of a message. So his dad's trying to say to him, well, his dad didn't say anything to him. So he went out and that sort of stuff, and he played again the next night, and he didn't score any goals, right? And he felt bad, and he's in the truck, and he's on the way home, and his dad says to him, he gets out of the truck, and he starts walking towards the house, and his dad's like, where are you going? You got to go get your equipment. And he's like, what are you talking about? I didn't have a good game. He goes, there's a difference between the last game and this game. In the last game, it was easy. in this game you worked. And work is what is going to make a difference for you. And Doug actually credits that his work ethic was almost unparalleled. That's why he was captain or assistant captain for 7 different NHL teams.
Wow.
So stuff like that, right? Like, again, it seems a little old school dad approach when you hear stuff like that, but I get it. And it works in the culture in which they have, and taught him the value of a great work ethic overall. So that's what I learned today. What'd you learn today?
Wait, how does work ethic for you, how does that work with sportsmanship?
Well, I think the key there from a work ethic thing is it's a parent modeling the types of behaviors, and good work ethic is one of the things that you're trying to learn on the ice, right? Or wherever else. So that was one of the things that his dad identified that was important, and you have to do the same as a parent. You have to say, what are the behaviors that I'm trying to grow here, and using sportsmanship as a way to get there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah.
What'd you learn?
I learned that people who have gold medals put their kids on skates before they're even 2 years old.
Bob skates. That was the word. Which was talking
Bob
about
skates.
That's what she did. Bob skates.
I know, it's
Super
so
cute.
well. It's just so interesting, right? Because it's so much. So much of it comes from where you are as a parent, right? What we can say that it's about our kids too, but it's also about what are we trying to foster in our kids, right? And when we're talking about good sportsmanship, it is about us in as many ways as it is about our kids, because really good sportsmanship, I think, starts with the parent. I think it starts with the parent choosing a good atmosphere for their child to be in, removing their child from situations. If like the T-ball story that you told at the beginning, we didn't go back to T-ball because we as parents thought that's not really the environment we want our kids in. And so it's our job to in a way to curate experiences for our children, and to ensure that when they're enrolled in these activities, they do have good role models for sportsmanship, if that's what we want to teach them, right? And so it's a lot to figure out. Is the coach right? Is the team right? All of it, but that's our responsibility as parents, I think, to help our kids learn that,
Right.
and then to settle in. And when it doesn't go right, then we manage that as well for our kids.
The measurement is the behavioral side, right? Which is, when you look at your kid in whatever type of extracurricular they're doing that gets some sort of audience, again, whether it's sports or dance or music or that sort of stuff, do you feel proud about the path that they took to get there? It's not just, do they look great on the stats sheet? Do you feel that this is a good person, a good human being who can compete well? Like I wasn't a sports kid. I run 3 businesses. I'm highly competitive, but I do it in a way that I'm proud of. Like I never, badmouth my competitors. I never take them out. In fact, I do the opposite. I have lunch with them, and I'm hopeful that sort of stuff is the sort of thing that you can find the roots for in childhood. Mm-hmm. All right, we want you to come and learn more stuff. There's some great resources out there. Parents Canada has a fantastic article called Teach Your Kids Good Sportsmanship. It actually gives some fantastic resources and approaches. I also found this great article in the Irish Times about this idea of over competition. I'd never heard that phrase before, and over competition means really pushing
He
kids
introduces
hard.
it in the last minute of the show.
That's right. Well, the idea of
A whole show for us we could have.
But I think we talk about that idea
over-competition.
of over competition, that idea of pushing the kids too hard, too fast. And, they use soccer as kind of the example. But the name of the article is Over Competition in Sport is Bad for Children's Health, and particularly mental health there. So please take a look at those resources and tune in next week from 11 to 12 on Wednesdays for Parents Canada Talk Radio. I have been Jason Thompson.
With Genevieve DeVries.
And we are on News Talk Saga 960.